Welcome to podcast. I am your
Welcome to podcast.
Welcome to podcast. I am your crushed host, Pod Batchley.
What is purse? Do you guys know that reference? It's another podcast reference you wouldn't know.
Oh, it's too good. We should definitely keep that. Well, I am your podcast host for Podcrushed, named Penn Batchley, joined by my co-hosts Nava and Sophie and Sorry. My day job is not this. I'm an actor, right? So what am I doing here?
Yeah.
But I get things. I get pictures of me sent to me of myself on the train, a fair amount. You know, people at me, they tag me, and I saw a recent one that stuck out to me not only because I'm wearing a new white hat post Joe, but I noticed I was wearing these headphones, and this is real. So I typically don't like wearing headphones on the train at all, big clunky ones, because they're not comfortable. They're not sleek. If you're getting good sound, you're not getting the other attributes. These, no lie, these are so light. They are sleek. They're very comfortable, and you get incredible noise. Also, the battery is insane. You get over 60 hours of active noise canceling playtime. It's JLab, I should say. JLab, the Epic Lux Lab Edition headphones, is a company that we've just found out about in the last year, and they make great stuff.
I am wearing my J-Buds Mini right now. You could barely see them. They're so tiny, like a little tiny little girl.
Adorable.
A little fairy. I love them. They come in so many different colors. And like you said, Penn, they last. The battery lasts for so long. I've never had earbuds that last that long. So yeah, super practical. And the price point keeps it so that you can actually have multiple pairs. You can have your J-Buds Mini that you use for the gym, the ones you use for home, the ones I use for my bedtime with my daughter to tune her out,
Healthy parenting.
That really resonates with me because I have a curse when it comes to particularly headphones, lifelong curse, lose them, step on them, get them stolen. Somehow they never stay in my orbit. So it has been helpful to be able to afford to buy a few pairs. And this has been my favorite pair from the JLab,
Oeuvre.
Yeah, from the JLab Oeuvre. The Epic Sport ANC 3 earbuds. They go over your ear and so far have not fallen out, have not been easy to snatch. So they're mine, and I wear them at night when I want to go on a walk and I want to be alert. So you can make them noise canceling, but you can also be alert and hear what's happening, and that's my preferred mode.
So if you see Penn on the subway wearing his JLab headphones, just snap a picture. Send it to us.
Yeah, or don't.
Yeah, I think he
actually.
loves invasion. That's what he was
sorry,
saying, right?
sorry, Navs. No, don't. You can at them.
If you also have a problem with your ears where things just pop out of them, you can snatch up a blue box at retailers everywhere, or you can head to jlab.com. You can use our code PODCRUSHED and you'll get 15% off of your order today.
Your ears, dear listener, are likely dying for us to just get to the episode, get to the guest, right? Who is it? We don't know. We've tapped blindly. We don't know. Today, Ashley Flowers, the New York Times bestselling author and host of Crime Junkie, which is a weekly true crime podcast you probably already know about because it's one of the biggest ones out there. But in it, two lifelong best friends discuss all of these gripping cases that they can't get out of their heads. Since its debut in 2017, Crime Junkie has become one of the biggest podcasts of all time with over 1 billion lifetime downloads, second only to Podcrushed, as you're well aware. She's here today mostly, apart from picking apart her teenage years. She's here to promote her recent novel, The Missing Half, which follows the gripping tale of two sisters who will do anything to find their missing halves, even if it means destroying everything they've ever known. We loved having Ashley here today, truly. We think you will too. Let's get on to it. Let's give her flowers. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to Podcrushed. We're your hosts. I'm Penn.
I'm Sophie.
And I'm Nava, and I think we would have been your middle school besties.
Making our Furbies kiss.
Give me some sugar.
I don't know. Is that weird?
Hug me with tongue.
I don't know. That's... Oh, no. So as you may or may not be aware, we start at 12. What was 12-year-old Ashley Flowers like? How did she see the world? What was her day-to-day life like? Home life? All that stuff.
she was in a cult, basically.
Oh, okay. All right.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So at 12, so I live in Indiana currently. I was still living in Indiana, born and raised. I just left briefly for college. But my dad was a pastor at like one of those mega churches. And he wasn't like the main pastor. He was what was called an associate pastor. We lived on the premises of the church. We, like, everything we did was at the church. We had to go to, like, services multiple times a week. And it was, like, such a freaking bubble. I went to the school that was made, like, the church's school. So, like, my whole world lived in this, like, one parking lot, essentially, at 12.
How many people do you think comprised that community?
I mean, the church itself was like a couple thousand. And I mean, it would it could hold 5,000. And in the summertime, they would have this thing called camp meeting where everyone would come from like all over the country in their RVs to like hear pastors speak or whatever. And I mean, it was like the whole mindset too of how the church was. And I mean, so many reasons I don't like it now is it was a very like us versus them. And I thought like the whole world operated the way we did. And there was like very few people who were different. And it turns out like, oh no, like we might have been the different ones.
Was the entire world them? Who is they to you?
At 12, it was like the good Christians were us and everyone else was them.
And everyone else was them. That's a big them. It's a lot of them.
Yeah, I know.
The three of us, for sure, them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You guys had really probably exciting life. And like, I will get there. But obviously things have changed for me drastically. But at 12, the world was small.
Yeah.
There was no life outside of it for all of middle school until high school.
Yeah.
I think the way that I like rebelled is I remember I used to tell everyone like there was no way in hell I'd ever marry a pastor.
Really?
Because like that's what my dad was. And I saw like it all around me. And I just like I think that like back then what I thought I wanted to do was I had a grandma who was like a nurse, and I just remember seeing that as being like, oh, that's like really financially stable. You could find a job anywhere. It was like super practical, and I continued to gravitate towards that because I did. I wanted a bigger life than that parking lot.
Yeah.
In our research, I learned that Brit, who's on Crime Junkie with you, is a lifelong friend of yours.
Yeah.
And that you were you born on the same day?
We were.
Wow.
That is so wild. Such a fun fact.
In the same cult?
Same cult? Yeah.
Same cult.
Yeah, you must have been.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean,
That's
I'm just using
how
your
we knew each
terminology
other. So
now.
our moms both went to the church, and her parents had actually been trying to get pregnant for a very long time, like 11 years. And my mom had me, and they had just started the adoption process. And when her mom came to visit my mom at the hospital, she told my mom was like, she told my mom, she's like, this is bittersweet. Like, I'm so happy for you, but like, this is the thing that I've wanted for so long that I can't have. And my mom was like, well, for all you know, maybe your baby's being born right now. And 3 months later, they got Brit and found out she has the exact same birthday. And we've been like soulmates ever since.
Wow, that's
wow.
wild.
That is amazing. Well, so that made me curious. Like, what was your friendship with Brit like at 12? Were you super tight, or were you running in the same circles, or?
No, we were super tight. We spent a lot of time. She grew up on a farm. So like I had the house that was like attached to the church basically, but she lived like 20 minutes away on a farm. And so we were riding horses in our bathing suit to like, I mean, it was like small town, like little stuff. And her and I were like constantly rewriting. We were like the Weird Al Yankovic of middle school girls because we would like rewrite all these songs about like the boys in our lives, and we were on AIM and like solving mysteries. Like that's the true crime was the thing that her and I like always had together, because truly we could not be more different people, her and I, but like for some reason like we were both fascinated by this.
When do you think that started?
I mean, for me, like I don't know when it wasn't there. And I think like my mom was super into mysteries, and her mom before her, they weren't really into true crime. Like they were just big fans of Agatha Christie books, and she'd watch Perry Mason and Columbo and all those like geriatric murder shows. But I don't know, like I tell people that I think the first time like it hit me was I'm like really close to JonBenét's age. And I remember being, Brit and I always said like tabloid height when we're at the grocery store seeing this thing and like having this moment of being like, oh my God, those like those stories that you read being like happen in real life. And from that moment on, like I couldn't get enough. Like I just became obsessed with the genre.
You've written a book called The Missing Half, and we're going to get there. But in the prologue, the I don't even know what to call her yet. The victim is wearing a tankini. And that specific word actually, there's like a trend. There's been a trend on TikTok and Instagram that's like girlhood is. And for me, girlhood is like choosing a matching tankini with my best friend at Abercrombie and Fitch.
What
and
is
it's like
tankini?
Such a specific moment because I don't think they make tankinis anymore. They're like
They do.
very
They're coming back.
They do?
They're coming back.
Oh my God.
No way.
They had been very unpopular.
So let me just explain
it?
to Penn, because Penn doesn't know. A tankini is just like a two-piece swimsuit, but instead of
So
a
it's-
bikini
okay.
where it's like
It's a
small
tank top.
triangles or, whatever shape, it's like a tank top. So
Okay.
it's like a more modest
It was
version of a
very
bikini.
popular when I was like 15, 16, and then they went out
Yeah.
of style for decades. But and I actually when I read it like triggered all of these memories, and I had a question for you. I had a two-part question. One is, do you have a favorite water memory? Like I feel like being around water is like such a childhood thing. I don't know if for you. And then two, do you have a fashion regret from your middle school years?
I have, first of all, no fashion regrets. Like, take me back immediately. Take me back
amazing. I love that.
immediately.
That's
I would
bold.
do it all over again. I also, like, I feel bad for you guys because I might be the worst host. Like, I left my, like, shame chip somewhere in
That's great.
my past life.
And you don't have it. That's great.
I'm sure I do. Like, my husband, like, knows my one weak spot and he can, like, really embarrass me.
Oh, we need him on.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean,
Follow
he'll
up.
take me to a bar. You know how they have those like tunes things where you like pay to play the song?
Yeah.
He will just play Nickelback over and over and over until like people in the bar get mad. And then he's like the one singing along. So you like know it's him. It's very like, I want to die when that happens.
but that has
But
nothing to do
fashion
with
choices, like, no. Because mostly because like the 90s are kind of coming back and like early 2000s.
Yeah.
But my water memory, I'm like the queen of nostalgia. So when you talk about the tankini in the book, my favorite part in the book is actually this one moment later on, we talk about a memory where she did the George Washington hair.
Yeah.
So it's like no specific memory, but it's just like those like little things that you would do every time. Like, I don't know. Like there are certain things that I can do now that like take me straight back to being young and like when the world felt so easy. I heard a quote somewhere from there's this podcast I listened to called Dakota Ring, and she said that the world was never less complicated. We were just too young to know that it was. And I think that's kind of the truth. Like there was always something. But it feels so messy now. I keep saying I'm going to create. You guys saw The Village, right? Like I'm not going to ruin The Village for anyone. The M. Night Shyamalan.
I actually didn't watch it, but
I have
to
to
go ahead. You can
ruin it. Ruin
This is-
it.
this is-
We're
this is-
actually
this
ruining
is
the
what-
podcast for ruining shows and movies. So.
This is actually like one of the, I don't know, it's a good one. So it's an unfortunate spoiler, but go ahead. It's good.
We'll skip ahead, listeners, if you want to watch The Village. Just skip a couple minutes.
Yeah, like you're gonna lose listeners because of The Village.
Yeah.
So it's this like it looks like they're in the 1800s and they all grow up in this village, and there's these monsters on the other side that they're protecting their kids from, and all of this, and you end up realizing the big twist at the end is when they finally like go past the barrier. It's just like modern day. So they had like been shielding them from everything. And I keep telling everyone in my life, like, I'm going to buy a compound one day and I am just going to wall it off. But it's going to, instead of being the 1800s, it's going to be the 90s. And I'm just going to like re-release an Alanis Morissette CD every once in a while. Josie's going to get a pager. It's going to be like the best time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best decade.
I'm curious. I was looking through your Instagram, and I feel like almost every post, every other post in your caption, you are asking specifically single moms to leave their Venmo handles so that you can like help out with a bill or something, which I was really struck by, like just the amount that you do that, and how much in other areas of your career it seems like you are really focused on giving back as well. And I was curious what you think in your upbringing led to that, if anything, or if it was something that came on later.
And also, if we could just give you our handles.
Perfect. I do think it. I mean, I think it was like I talk a lot about the bad parts of my upbringing, and like in a light way. But I mean, it was a little traumatic. And but what I am so grateful for, and that my parents instilled in me, was this idea of always like trying to help people that are in a worse spot than you are. Even when we had nothing. And I mean, like, we truly had nothing at one point. At one point, like, we were on like food stamps. My dad was still like always giving and giving. Like, that was just his nature. And I know what it was like to, I remember one time going to the dentist and I had to get a cavity filled, which is like not that big of a deal for most people. But I remember my mom just like crying as she handed the lady her credit card because $200 was going to like break my family. Aww. And so like the single moms thing really came from like after I had my daughter, like I didn't know how hard it was going to be. Like people can try and prepare you. And I think for some women, it comes easier. For me, it's so freaking hard. And I just couldn't imagine doing it without like my entire village, like my husband and my mom and his mom. And like I wouldn't have survived. And I like all the time, I'm just like, I don't understand how anyone can do this alone. And so that's where kind of the Venmo thing comes in, why single moms, like that really came after I had a daughter. But giving back was just like I don't understand how to move through the world and not do that. And when it came to like what we do for work, this whole thing got started because I felt like I needed to give back. So I was obsessed with this genre and these cases. But I got to this point in adulthood where I was like, and I'd always done volunteering and I was kind of looking for my next thing. And I was like, I feel like I need to give back in some way to this community that I'm always taking from. Like I'm listening constantly for entertainment. I can't solve a case. I can't just turn around and be a detective today. What can I do to give back? Which led me to volunteering at Crime Stoppers, to being on their board of directors, to eventually, long story short, starting the show. And so that like it was just like the DNA of why I made this, and it has been so much a part of, as we grow, the ways in which we're able to give and give back have too.
That's really inspiring.
I started doing what I do now when I was 12, and I started to see the world as the performer that I am. So what you do isn't quite performance. What you do is, it has that in it. It has journalism in it. It has all these sort of pieces in it. Yes, it's creation. Yeah. So I'm just curious, like, is there a link you can make? And you don't have to force it if not. Is there a link that you can see between the way you saw the world then and the way you see it now? And any seed of what you do now, you might not have been able to see it then, but can you see it now that it was actually on the horizon then?
I could not see it then, but it's so easy. Like it's like staring me in the face when I look back. So I've got like these horrendous, and maybe if I can find it, I'll give you a clip, but like the smallest clip. I've got these horrendous home movies that I used to make where I would like write a murder mystery and then make my family act it out. And I was like literally even like writing commercials into the movie because I knew you had to have an ad break and fund it somehow.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And
you're a producer too.
Yeah. And I was directing music videos with my sister. And I mean, from the earliest time I can remember. And what I think is so interesting is I would have, prior to starting Crime Junkie and starting the business, I would have never told you I was a creative person. And I think it's because I was always like had to be so practical. And I think it was just also the way I grew up. And I was so striving for that like security and like financial security, job security. It just wasn't, I didn't have the room to dream, I don't think, or like dream big. And my parents told me I was capable of anything, but like also don't be ridiculous and get a real job kind of thing.
Also stay in the cult.
Yeah, or stay in the cult. Yeah, like marry a pastor. So it was like there, and I've got all the home movies to prove it, but I don't know why I never let myself like actually fall into that. And when I look back at like the classes I did the best in, like I could write a story that would have my freshman English teacher like weeping as she's grading it, but I'm like taking AP physics for some reason, and like it's so hard for me, but killing myself to do well at that because in my mind like math and science is like the only thing I should be doing, which is so strange. But it was there all along. And now that like I let myself like find an outlet for it, I'm like, I can't believe I ever tried to do anything else.
At what point do you feel like you stopped fighting who you wanted to be versus who you felt like you should be?
Once that thing allowed me to pay the bills doing that thing. So even when I started the business and the podcast, I worked full time for the whole first year. And I only gave myself a year because I knew how hard it was going to be. I knew how much work I was going to have to put in. And so I gave myself 1 year, and I said by the 1 year mark, if I can't quit my job and pay my bills, then I have to give this other thing up. And I mean, like right at the 1 year mark, we were able to do that.
That's incredible.
You continued working another job while you were doing it?
While I was doing the podcast for the whole first year, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I would wake up at like, I would work on the podcast from like 5 a.m. to like 7:30. I'd go to work from 8 to 5. I would come home and work till like 10 or 11 p.m. And then I would do like 12 hours Saturday, 12 hours Sunday. It was brutal. It was a brutal first year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is incredible. I mean, it sounds like we are ready to transition to your kind of career, but we should ask you some classic questions because our listeners will want to hear these. So why don't we start with an embarrassing story? Could be middle school, could be high school, but can you share like a particularly awkward, embarrassing memory from adolescence?
I mean, there's like a lot of like little ones. And again, from middle school, I think I was protected by being in the bubble. Like I couldn't do anything interesting to be embarrassing. And so it's not like I actually like love this about me. Other people are like mortified. So my job in high school was I was the dancing pig on the side of the road, like our main strip, because no one else wanted to do it. So I was like Famous Dave's Barbecue. I was the pig in the suit who was like busting a move on the corner. And like that's what everyone
Is there
everyone
video
knew.
footage of this? Because we would love that.
I literally was trying to pull it up. I think YouTube took it down because I was dancing to Lean Like a Cholo, and I think it was a copyright violation.
That song. I forgot about that song.
I did not. It's like now my daughter's favorite bedtime story. I tell her about how I started as a hostess and worked my way up to the pig, and she's obsessed. Wow. But I was just like, I was a goofy kid. Like, I mean, I was the one, we had a huge high school. I was the one who's like, I got stuck one time. I was like, had my backpack, and there's like the wall and this like giant pole for some fucking reason. And it's so busy in our high school. And I was like, I'll just cut through. And I got stuck. And like a bunch of people had to like come. It was so fucking embarrassing. Had to come like pull me out, like weasel me out of this like hole in the wall. It was terrible. But
How did you get stuck?
I truly was just like, I was awkward and I was weird, and I didn't have a thing or a group, especially when I went to high school, so at middle school, the church broke up. So like everyone kind of like fled and went their separate ways. And so I went from being in a school where I had 13 people in my class to going to the public high school where I had like 1,000 people in my class. Like it was huge.
Wow.
And everyone's known each other their whole lives. And so I didn't have a friend group. I ate lunch alone a ton. But no, I go there and I don't know anyone. And I'm just trying to like make my way through. And I always felt, I think it's why I tried so hard at like the science, whatever, like the straight and narrow path, is I never felt like I was great at anything. I felt like I was a little bit like a chameleon, and I think I could be good at I could be decent good at like a lot of things, which like, you know, made it easy to like fit in here and there. But like I never found my thing. I never found, you know, people had sports or people had music. I cannot hold a tune to save my life. And so I always thought I was just going to be like, I was just kind of average. And I think that's what like bummed me out more than anything, is like I had this like desire in me for this like really big life, and like I felt like it was something that everybody wanted, and I wanted to change the world, and I wanted to. That's just how I envisioned myself. And I think the older and older I got, I was like, oh no, like I think that like you're just this is it, and that's okay, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I think that was hard to come to terms with for like a long time.
Debt doesn't just show up one day, it builds, right? Little by little. Credit cards, car loans, medical bills, and suddenly you're juggling payments, feeling stuck, maybe. Well, here's the good news. You're not stuck. You just need a reset. At American Financing, they help homeowners like you every day. They use your home's equity and roll that high-interest debt into one simple, affordable payment. They're saving homeowners an average of $800 a month. No judgment, no pressure. Just real solutions that put you back in control. Imagine breathing again, sleeping again, knowing your future is yours to shape. It starts with one call. It only takes 10 minutes to get started, and there are no upfront fees, so it costs nothing to find out how much you can save. And if you start today, you may be able to delay your next 2 mortgage payments. American Financing salary-based consultants are ready to listen and ready to help. Take back your peace of mind with American Financing. Call American Financing today, 866-889-1776. That's 866-889-1776. AmericanFinancing.net/Podcrushed. Is that it seems like there were certain restrictions, or there were certain aspects of your upbringing that were quite strict. I mean, I would think in any extremely religious upbringing, that's going to be there, right?
Yeah.
But then there was this, if you could call it permission, or you seem to have total freedom to explore. Call it criminality, call it investigation, call it murder, call it whatever. There was no restriction here.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of restriction, and I think it was because that was like so based in reality. Like there was no arguing with it. This was just the world, and these are the facts. That even though it's like the worst of the worst things, it was okay to talk about. Whereas like they spent more time like worrying about like making sure I don't read Harry Potter, because that would be the end of the world. Yeah. And
I also heard no Furbies were allowed, which I thought was so funny.
Oh my God, no. Yeah, Furbies were a no-go. Cabbage Patch Babies were a no-go.
Really?
Cabbage Patch Babies?
Why? Just because they looked weird?
I don't know. Like, there's a lot that I even ask my mom about.
Born of the womb? I don't know.
Yeah. And she can't even explain it. And that's like the crazy part about,
interesting.
Like, again, I have nothing against religion. There's so many wonderful Christians, but like this version of it where it was just like, wait, we don't know why we hate something. We just hate it. And we're just like, and I'm like, that isn't, I think it's okay to ask questions. But yeah, no Cabbage Patch Kids, no Furbies, no Harry Potter. We're more worried about witches and wizardry than murder.
Yeah, that's
Makes
fair.
Sense.
So the reason I ask that is because I think a lot about true crime and true crime obsession. And I think that in its essence, what we're exploring in it is questions of human nature. Mm-hmm. Deep questions of human nature. I think we're fascinated. So I guess I want to hear now. I think we all want to hear about how, as you grew, this fascination and obsession, call it human nature, call it whatever, turned into something you could see as or build.
And just for some of our listeners who don't know, like the very few of you who don't know, Ashley has one of the biggest podcasts in the world. She has a podcasting company. She gives back through her organization. Like what Ashley has done is absolutely like I think there's no comparable person probably in the world of true crime, certainly.
The idea that we do, in some sense, the same thing in podcasting is a joke. Like
you guys are so...
No. I'm serious. I'm serious.
So so we have just overview. I've got a company called Audio Check, which
named after your dog.
Yeah, I was gonna say the name just came from I was filling out my paperwork because again, this was not gonna be a hobby. I did all my LLC paperwork before I ever released a first episode.
Wow.
And I needed a name, and I was like, okay, I'm all about spending time on the things that matter. And in my mind, I was like, a name doesn't matter. Like, I'm doing audio. I love my dog, Chuck. It's Audio Chuck. So there you go.
It's good.
It is a great name.
Yeah.
My origin story.
Something that we also share. Great names for a podcast. Right?
That's perfect.
Podcrushed, there's nothing cringy about that at all. Okay, sorry, continue.
So, yeah, we've got 20 shows, but our flagship show is Crime Junkie, where every week, Brit, who I mentioned, my best friend, I get on and I tell her the crime story I've been obsessing over. And the format really, like when I was thinking about how this was coming to be, so like the business of it came from, I was on the board of directors for Crime Stoppers. They really wanted me to do some brand awareness for them. Nobody my age knew what the program was. And so I originally I partnered with a local radio station here in Indianapolis and was like, hey, I'll come on every Monday morning. I'll tell a quick true crime story. And in exchange, you advertise for them. And it became their top-rated segment. They became the top-rated station in the city. And at some point, I was like, okay, like I actually think I could do this on my own and have like more control and tell the stories longer. And I was obsessed.
Can I ask how long that segment was?
It was like 8 minutes.
8 minutes? That's short.
Wow.
Oh, it was like in and out, and then with their ad breaks and their like sound effects, and like it was totally different.
Okay.
And so I had become obsessed with podcasts before this. Like, I mean, I was consuming all the true crime ones, and I kept waiting for someone to make this specific show that I wanted to hear, where I wanted to hear two people. But I didn't want side tangents. I didn't really want personal stories. Like I've got ADD with the best of them. And I'm like, I just like, give me the facts and give me the facts that like, you can't half-ass it. Like as a crime junkie, I know the big cases. So don't come at me with like wrong facts or like stuff I don't know. Like it's got to be deep. And so I got to this point where I was like, well, maybe I should just make the show I keep waiting for. With the idea being that like, this is the crime junkie experience. I'm going to like tell you everything there possibly is to find about this story in this one place in a really accessible way. It was what I was already doing. I was already like researching and finding out everything and telling my best friend Brit. And so in my mind, I would just put a mic to that and let Brit be the listener, let her be the audience that's listening, and let me tell my best friend a story. Let the people who are listening feel like they're hanging out with us. And it just took off. I mean, I think it's great content, but I think we were in the right place at the right time as well, as far as like when podcasting was really taking off and gaining traction, and true crime as a whole. I mean, I always feel like it's been a big genre, but over the past decade, the way that that's grown as well, I think is kind of unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like we just had this like spike in that first year.
I'm sure you've seen like the memes about how like women will like relax like to true crime.
It's me.
Will unwind. Yeah. Yeah. And I have my own ideas of why women in particular are drawn to the genre, but I'm curious for you as the expert in the topic, what you think.
I think there's a lot of things, and I have not studied this. I'm speaking from my own personal experience. Right. I think some of it is we are often the victims of these things, and so there is this like hyper-vigilance of how can I protect myself? What can I learn? How can I also think like you consume so much that you're like, surely it can't happen to me. Like if I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is behind that. I also think that like many women have this like attention to detail. So many of the detectives I talk to are like, I can't tell you that some of the best detectives we have are women. And I think this like attention to detail and like wanting to pick apart every little minuscule part of a case and try and make sense of it, because that's what like our brains want to make sense of the world. And so much of true crime just doesn't make sense. And to Penn, to go back to what you were saying earlier, it's like, how does it happen? And who's capable of it? And is it everyone? Are we all capable of something if pushed to a certain point? And what makes one person capable and one person not? And why is that point different for all these people? I think it appeals to more than just women, but I think that we, from a self-preservation point of view, really pick at it.
I mean, it definitely appeals to, well, to me, the male version is Seven, David Fincher films. It's like the male version is not that different, but it is.
I call it boy true crime. Like I can pick out boy true crime a mile away. It's heists, it's spies, it's like
right, yeah. But there is. I mean, to me, I think men have a focus on and a fascination with, the serial killer as a modern mythological figure in a way. But it is different. But it is different, and I'm not exactly sure what that difference is right now. Do you think that? Have you thought about this? Do you think there is?
I haven't, because everyone always asks me about women.
I'm here to ask you about men.
Men. Let's talk about men more.
Well, do you think men are? I think men are subject to more this is not backed by data. This is just a speculative thought.
Yeah.
I think men are subject to more collective violence, like gang violence. They serve in the military at higher rates. But women, it's more like domestic violence. So it's more, or like child abuse. So it's more like one-on-one. I guess boys probably are subject to child abuse too. But partner violence is more predominantly like male violence against women. But boys are more subject to collective violence, I think. So there's not, like war stories are really popular with men.
Yeah.
So and gang stories are more popular with men. So what they're more subject to, they're more interested in.
Yeah.
And what women are subject to, they're more interested in. Maybe.
I love that. Very insightful.
Yeah.
But I could be totally wrong.
There was this sense I got when I was listening. I was listening to several episodes back to back, and I was just like, my husband could hear me. I was in my headphones, and I just was in the kitchen being like, oh my God, no. And I was just like, how did I not know about Charlotte Grabby? Like, how did I not know her story? This is so tragic, like what this man did to her. And I remember when I first became a mom, I had this feeling that is, it's like maybe there's two sides of the same coin of like, there's so much that women go through that is just silent, it's just quiet, and no one talks about it, and no one sees it. And I had this feeling like, I just want someone to witness what's happening. Like, I want someone to like be sitting next to me or just like watching me breastfeed so that they know like what I'm actually putting into this, like what's going into motherhood, because it's kind of in the shadows. And I think it's something different, but in the same vein with like violence against women. And I mean, I haven't listened to all of your episodes, and obviously, like we've acknowledged, men are victims of violence too, but I do feel like it's like predominantly women, and it just feels like important that we know these people's names. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard, like when you're in so many stories and I think the thing that I see the most, especially as we work with families now, is this idea that like when something like this happens, when a whole human just gets like snuffed off the face of the earth, a human who has those moments and who was breastfeeding their child and who like did all these like beautiful things and had a life just like ours, when it's just gone, like that everything just moves on. I think that was just one of the realizations I had, like that most families have the hardest time dealing with. Like, how does everything for me just stop? And like the rest of the world is so unaffected. And it happens at such an alarming rate that we're desensitized to it. And like, and even the way that like we talk about true crime, I think like desensitizes us often to the real person who got lost, the real like family behind all of that, which has been like such a big mission in our work, is how do I will never stop consuming this crime or this content. I don't expect anyone else to. Like I understand wanting to consume it. So the question for me is always like, how can we find a way to create it better? How can we find a way to consume it better, more responsibly, so that we're not continuing to cause more harm to the people who've already like suffered the biggest loss.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was so interesting in the beginning of The Missing Half. Right away, like pretty much right away, you talk about a true crime podcast in a self-deprecating way from the perspective of the victim or the victim's family, how they might feel about like their family member's death being covered in the media and specifically on a podcast. And I thought that was interesting that you went there and given your career. Yeah. And I wondered if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah. So I don't talk about it very long, but it's one of those things that so much of the book, like I love doing the books because it gives me a chance to play in the mystery world where the stakes are zero. Like the stakes feel so high when we're working in true crime because like of the people on the other end of this that we're working with. But The stakes are zero, and everyone wants me to write a book where like there is a podcast solving a case. Like I have zero interest in doing that.
Yeah, you're like, I do this enough.
I was like, I'd rather just mock myself. But it's what I hear from family all the time. I mean, like I so much from the book is taken from my real life, from cases I've worked from, whatever. And I've seen like it goes wrong so many ways where I've talked to families who have been burned by other things. I've like so many people who like I have to like listen to people talk about my life like they know my life when they've never even talked to me. And I think that's such an interesting part of what they have to deal with. And it's like right like early on when I didn't have any resources, like we were talking about people we never got to actually talk with. But like literally from episode 1, I got a reminder of that though, because episode 1, I did a case on Nikki McCowan, who is this woman who went missing in Indiana. It was kind of a little known case. And I released my first episode, and the next day I got an email from her daughter. Like, I mean, I'm nobody at this point with no following. And it was just that reminder that I don't know if people forget or if they don't care or what it is, but a reminder that every word I'm going to say, I have to imagine is being heard by the people who were affected by the story. And so in little ways, like that's the kind of stuff I wanted to incorporate into the book. It's like, I don't have to, like, I'm not perfect. Our medium isn't perfect. But if you can point out the imperfections, I think that's how we all learn and get better.
It's been really clear all throughout this that giving back is really important to you. And you've started an organization called Season of Justice.
Yeah.
You went on last year you were on the Kelly Clarkson show. I watched that interview and you, actually I'm going to quote you back to you, which I know some people hate, so I apologize. But I think you said, at that time, I think you guys had already helped solve 9 cold cases, including 2 murders. And maybe you can share sort of the updated stats with us. But in response to sort of Kelly's reaction to that, you said, I think the whole world would be a better place if we stopped acting like we're strangers. We're not. And I just loved that notion, which I think sort of speaks to this idea that we're all fundamentally one. Yeah. And at the beginning, you talked about growing up in this environment of like a very us versus them. And yeah, I'm just curious like how you came to this place of really like so truly believing in the oneness of humanity and the philosophy underpinning Season of Justice. And if you can tell us about the great work that you're doing with that organization.
Yeah, I don't know when it happened, but when I graduated high school, I knew I was going to have to like pay for my own college, and all of my friends were going to like these 2 state schools. And I just like, I wanted something different. I had just had something in me that I was like, I need to meet new people. I need to like see something different. So I went to Arizona and I got a full-time job working in a hospital. I put myself through school at night. And I think it was just like getting away and meeting new people. And I think that like, I believe that hate is rooted in fear or greed, but like a lot of fear if you don't know. And you're just afraid of what you don't know. And I feel like there's like so much growing opportunities in meeting people who had a different walk of life. And I just like every time I've had that experience, and I watched so many people like, again, we grew up in this like culty church, but I have watched so many of them the same way I have like come out of it and like I'm in a different place. Like I've seen them grow up too, where they realize that what they believed wasn't right. And it to me, it sucks that you have to like have something happen to you to understand it, or someone you know to like to have understanding and compassion and love. But I watched it happen over and over where these things they said they were so against or hated or whatever, as soon as they could relate to it, like things change. And I'm so grateful that people are willing to change, because I think the second you write someone off because of and don't give them the chance to, that's not fair either.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know. I just have this sense that like when like every time I've gone to meet someone, like humans are so complex, and there's maybe it's the storyteller in me. There's such a story behind every single person that I don't understand how people don't think we're connected. Not to be like too kumbaya, but like, I mean, we're all like sharing this planet, and I like the stuff that's going on in the world even. I just like, I meet so many wonderful people and so many like lovely people who we all have like a very similar story, and I don't know what it is we're fighting over or fighting for. And
it's Furbies.
That's Furbies.
Furbies.
So it's maddening, right? And as far as the nonprofit, I mean, that really came from a need. Like I like to get in and figure out what it is that people need without just like, waving a hand or throwing money at something. When I was working these cases over and over with law enforcement, I can't tell you how many times I got into one and what they said was, oh yeah, we've got like suspect DNA, like this thing could be solved, except there is no fund for this. We just don't have the money. And like that, it was baffling to me. Like it can't be $5,000 that's standing between this murder getting solved or not. And they didn't want to take money directly from a media company. So I set up the nonprofit for that reason specifically, especially with all like the new genetic genealogy testing that could be done. Like they didn't have the budget for regular DNA testing. Science moves so much faster than law. And offering this nonprofit that provided those grants, I worked with a former detective too, even just to set up the grant-making process because so many detectives are just like intimidated by it. So we made it as quick, as simple as possible just to get money in their hands. And I'll have to give you guys the updated numbers. It's been a lot more since the Kelly Clarkson show, but yeah, it's gone on to fund. I mean, a few hundred cases, if not more. We've had, I think, last time I heard 16 solves.
Wow. So it's more than doubled.
Jane and John Doe's identified.
I know you said yeah.
And that's just the nonprofit. Like we've also been able to do a ton at Audio Chuck. We do a lot of stuff in the true crime space, and then a lot of stuff with our community in Indianapolis. So we've done an endowment for a domestic violence shelter here. We've funded a mobile medical clinic. Did some resources for the homeless shelter. So a lot trying to build up our community because part of the mission I have as well. We've got this whole true crime thing, but I've become really passionate about building this media company in the Midwest. I want to make a really amazing place for people to come and work in media without having to go to a coast that a lot of people can't afford to live in. And I also, Indiana is I think this goes back to my upbringing. Indiana has very different beliefs than I do personally as a state and our laws and stuff. And I believe that if everyone who believes differently just leaves, nothing changes. And so I want to create a safe place because so many people who, whether they're gay, trans, whatever it is, you can't just leave oftentimes. And I want to create a safe place for people to come to work and be themselves and live their best life here.
Wow, it's amazing.
Well, we did it. We solved it. I think what we'll do, we will move to our final question.
Mm-hmm.
If you could go back to the 12-year-old Ashley, what would you say or do?
I had this cheesy quote on a wooden box that I bought from what is essentially a Charlotte Russe when I was 16 that I hung in every house I've had. And I think I wish I would have known it sooner. And it just says that not to spoil the ending, but it's going to be okay. And it's so cheesy and it's so simple, but it's really been my philosophy for everything. Since I found that, it's nothing's gonna end, and it's gonna be okay. I wish I would have known that sooner. As a kid, when everything feels so big and world ending and altering, all your feelings when you're young are what I should have done is brought my journal on the show. All the feelings feel so big, and it does really feel like your world is ending for stuff as an adult you think is simple, and it's not to I think that what I loved about it wasn't dismissive of the feelings. It wasn't just saying that they're not valid or that they're not real or you're not feeling that. But at the end, if you make the right decisions, you're moving in the right directions, you're gonna be fine, kid. You're gonna be fine.
Sweet. I love that you had that you have that wooden box that you've put up in your house, all your houses. That's really sweet.
That's right.
And you said you got it when you were 16? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I got it at the UP Mall in Mishawaka, Indiana. So I had to have been at a kitschy store, Charlotte Russe or something.
So you were pretty close to 12 when you already understood that. I mean,
yeah. I've been a very mature person, I think, most of my life. I just recently did one of those astrological past life psychic things.
Past life regressions, yes, Kendrick.
I didn't well, it wasn't a regression. He just told me about my past life.
Okay.
And I think I carried a lot of that with me. So I came in pretty mature and pretty angry. So.
Oh.
Well, this has been a delight. It's been so nice chatting with you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you
Yes,
guys.
thank
This
you
is
for
lovely. It's
making
so
the
good to
time.
meet all
Thank
of you.
It was so nice to meet you.
You can get The Missing Half wherever you get your books, and you can follow Ashley Flowers online at Ashley Flowers. Podcrushed is hosted by Penn Badgley, Nava Kavalin, and Sophie Ansari. Our senior producer is David Ansari, and our editing is done by Clips Agency. Special thanks to the folks at Lemonada. And as always, you can listen to Podcrushed ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership. Okay, that's all. Bye. You know what I can't stop saying? Sorry. I know, I'm assuming this is all going to be cut. Is the line from the finale of White Lotus, coconut milk's off! Coconut milk's expired!
Is that a spoiler?
Kind of. You know, this one is much more obvious, but I keep saying, Piper, no, in my living room, just all the time.
Oh,
Piper,
yeah.
no.
So good.
Buddhism.
You want to move to Taiwan? What?